You're surrounded by people. Your phone never stops buzzing. You have hundreds of followers, dozens of group chats, a notification waiting every time you unlock your screen. And yet, if you're honest with yourself right now, you feel completely alone. Maybe you're watching this at 1 a.m. because you can't sleep and there's no one to text. Maybe you just left a party full of people and felt more isolated than you did at home. If any of that sounds familiar, you are not broken, and you are not the only one. Right now, Gen Z and Millennials are reporting the highest levels of loneliness ever recorded. And the most disturbing part is this: they are the most digitally connected generations to ever exist. So what's actually going on? Today, we're going to break down the real psychology behind this loneliness epidemic, why it's happening, and what you can actually do to start feeling genuinely connected again. Let's start with the numbers, because the scale of this problem is staggering. According to a major report by Cigna, over 58% of Americans say they feel lonely, often or always. And when researchers break it down by generation, Gen Z scores the highest loneliness rates of any group, higher than baby boomers, higher than people in their 70s living alone. Read that again. The youngest, most connected generation on the planet is lonelier than retirees who spend their days by themselves. And it isn't only an American problem. The UK appointed a minister of loneliness. Japan did the same. The World Health Organization has officially declared loneliness a global public health threat, on par with smoking and obesity. This is not a personal failure. This is a structural problem built into the world you grew up in. Here's the first reason, and it's the one most people think they already understand, but actually don't. Yes, social media plays a role in loneliness, but not in the way you've probably been told. The problem isn't that you're using social media too much. The problem is what social media is quietly replacing. Psychologist Robert Weiss identified something called social provisions, the things we need from relationships to feel truly connected. Things like reassurance of worth, a sense of belonging, and opportunities to give and receive care. Social media gives you the signal of connection, likes, comments, followers, views, without the actual substance behind it. It's the emotional equivalent of eating candy for every meal. It feels like nourishment, but you're slowly starving. And here's what makes it worse. The more time you spend on platforms built for passive scrolling, the less time you spend on the one thing that actually fights loneliness: real, face-to-face interaction. Researchers call this the displacement hypothesis. Every hour spent scrolling is an hour not spent building a real bond with another human being. You're not lazy, you're not antisocial, you're feeding your brain digital sugar and then wondering why you still feel empty afterward. But social media is only part of the story. There are deeper structural forces creating this loneliness, and almost nobody talks about them. The first is the death of third places. Sociologist Ray Oldenburg coined that term for spaces that are neither home nor work, where people naturally gather and form bonds. The corner cafe, the local pub, the community center, the park bench where regulars know your name. Over the past 30 years, third places have been quietly disappearing, replaced by online spaces that technically connect us but never let us actually be together. Gen Z has grown up with almost none of these spaces left. And when there's nowhere to casually belong, you slowly stop belonging anywhere. The second force is the cult of productivity. Millennials were raised on a brutal mantra: hustle harder, optimize everything, your worth equals your output. The result is that relationships started to feel inefficient. Deep conversation takes time, vulnerability feels unproductive, even friendships get deprioritized when there's always another goal to chase. You can optimize yourself right out of connection without ever noticing it happening. The third force is the collapse of shared rituals. Older generations had built-in social glue, church attendance, bowling leagues, union halls, neighborhood cookouts. These weren't always deeply meaningful on their own, but they created repeated low-stakes contact with the same people, week after week. Repeated contact is the actual foundation of friendship. Research by Robin Dunbar at Oxford found it takes roughly 200 hours of shared time to form a close friendship. When was the last time you spent that much time with anyone outside of work or school? This isn't just an emotional inconvenience. Loneliness is a medical emergency moving in slow motion. Neuroscientist John Cacioppo, the world's leading expert on loneliness before his death, found that chronic loneliness raises cortisol, disrupts sleep, accelerates cognitive decline, and increases the risk of early death by 26%, a risk comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Your brain, when it senses social isolation, switches into threat mode. It becomes hypervigilant, scanning for rejection everywhere it looks. This is why lonely people often withdraw even further. The brain thinks it's protecting you from more pain, but it ends up sealing you inside the isolation you're desperate to escape. Psychologists call this the loneliness loop. You feel lonely, so you withdraw. Withdrawing makes you more sensitive to rejection, which makes you withdraw even more. Understanding this loop matters because breaking it requires deliberate action, not just waiting around to feel better on your own. Now, here's what actually works. I want to be honest with you, this isn't a quick fix, but it is simple. Step 1. Prioritize presence over performance. Stop performing connection. Stop crafting the perfect text. Stop waiting until you have something interesting to say. Real connection is built in ordinary moments. The boring conversation, the shared silence, the accidental encounter in a hallway. Start showing up imperfectly and consistently. Imperfect presence beats perfect absence. Every single time. Step 2. Invest in weak ties. Sociologist Mark Granovetter found that weak ties, acquaintances, neighbors, the barista you see every morning, play a surprisingly powerful role in our overall sense of belonging. You don't need a soulmate to feel less alone. Say good morning to your neighbor. Chat with the person next to you in line. These small connections matter far more than we tend to realize. Step 3. Create your own third place. If the old gathering spaces are disappearing, build a new one. Join a club. Sign up for a class. Volunteer on the same day every week. The goal is repetition with the same people in the same place, because that's how real bonds quietly form. Step 4. Interrupt the loop on purpose. When you feel the urge to withdraw, reach out instead. Send the text you're hesitating on. Accept the invitation even when you don't feel like going. Action comes before the feeling. You don't wait until you feel connected to go be social. You go be social and the feeling follows. Here's the truth nobody really wants to say out loud. Loneliness isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a signal. The same way hunger is a signal that your body needs food. It's your mind and your nervous system telling you plainly that you need real connection. You need to belong somewhere. Gen Z and Millennials didn't break society. They inherited a world that quietly dismantled all the structures that once held people together and then handed them a screen as a replacement. But here's what history keeps proving. Again and again. Humans are impossibly resilient. We build new rituals. We find new gathering places. We invent new ways to belong, even after the old ones disappear. The question isn't whether connection is possible for your generation. It absolutely is. The real question is whether you're willing to do the uncomfortable, inconvenient, beautifully human work of actually showing up for it. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly showed up for someone? And when was the last time you let someone show up for you? Sit with that question. The answer might be the first step out of the loneliness you've been carrying.